First thing I have to say is, Mack, you are certainly funny. I'm certain you didn't come here on YouTube to be a comedian, but your portrayal of creationism and yourself is nothing but pure humor. So, but let's go to the crux of the issue. Your first comment to me, that's actually important, because the rest are all ad hominems and entirely irrelevant to any discussion. Except for this one, you call me lazy. Is it laziness to go through the effort to research the data, incorporate that data, and then provide rational and logical outcome based on that data? Or is it far more lazy to resort to insults and to not even attempt to form any kind of rebuttal against those arguments? Now, as for my respect for the audience, I respect them quite a bit. It's them who chooses, to watch these videos or not. Now, it's no waste of videos to make 4 videos dealing with your 16 questions to illustrate how fundamentally ignorant those questions are. So, we can let the audience decide, not you. You don't get to make that decision. You do not have that authority. Now, the last thing, and this has to do with what you claimed, that I take 100% and divide it by 4 billion. No. What I did was I measured rates of mutation, and then I lowballed population figures, and I lowballed generation, how long it takes for a generation to be produced, and then I came out with the figures I had to show that, there's been sufficient time to produce enormous mutations in the populations of organisms today. Just for those that didn't hear it the first time, didn't see any of my other videos, I'm going to sum it up real quick. Mack had asked a question. He asked for the likelihood of beneficial mutations occurring. And he said over the last 1 billion years. Of course, life has been on the planet for about 3.5 billion years, give paleological records. So I chose known mutation rates, and I multiplied them first by the 2.5 billion years for the time that bacteria was on the Earth before multicellular organisms, and then multiplied that by the bacterial population, which would be about 5 to the 30th. 5 times 10 to the 30th. Very large figure. And then I really lowballed the time it takes for a generation. Normally bacteria can produce a generation in a day, in a few hours, depending on the bacterium. I made it 3 months. Because, I want to hedge on the side of the creationists, make them feel good, and then throw it in their face. The figure I got for mutations, the potential mutations over the first 2.5 billion years, now these aren't the actual mutations, understand, but only potential mutations, was a figure of 5 times 10 to the 38th power. That's huge. And then I went on to calculate out, again, lowballing all the figures just to be nice to the creationists, the potential mutations over the last billion years since the development of, roughly the development of multicellular organisms. And what I got there, using a 2-year generational length, time span, and a population of about 20 million, over the last billion years, I had a figure of 6 times 10 to the 17th power of mutations that could exist. Even if you run the generation rate at 20 years, you would still get a potential mutations, that being 6 times 10 to the 16th power, which is again a very large number. So Mack, not only did you simply insult me, which does nothing to support your argument, as a matter of fact, it's usually the last resort of someone who doesn't have an argument or a rebuttal, but then you strawmanned what I said, which is again, an evidence that you really have no rebuttal to any of the arguments I put forth, answering your 16 questions. So why is that? I mean, you're a good little creationist. Insults, strawmen, you're really just about the, how should I say, almost not quite as good as a poster child for creationism as Venom Fang X, but you're pretty close. And you're both quite laughable. So, I dare you to actually deal with my arguments instead of simply insulting. Even though I doubt you'll not insult me. It seems to be the type of person you are. You don't have the intellect or the knowledge to actually deal with these arguments in a rational and logical fashion, so instead you insult me. So we'll see what you can do. I doubt you'll do well. And a final thought, Mack, about me using 4 videos to answer your 16 questions. Well, I'll never half-ass an answer, no matter how half-assed the questions may be. So you ask questions, I'll answer them as fully as possible. If you don't like that, probably because you don't like the answer to the question.